In the last episode, we prepared the poultry house. Now comes one of the most exciting days for every poultry farmer. The day your chicks arrive. The farm has officially started. But excitement can also make people forget one very important thing. Day-old chicks are extremely delicate. They've just come from the hatchery. They've gone through handling, transportation, and sometimes several hours without feed or water. By the time they reach your farm, they're already stressed. What happens during the next few hours is very important because it sets the tone for the rest of the brooding period. One mistake I see quite often is people waiting for the chicks to arrive before they start preparing the brooder. That's already too late. Everything should be ready before the delivery vehicle gets to your farm. The litter should already be spread. The feeders and drinkers should already be in place. Your heat source should already be running. The brooder should already be warm. The only thing left to do should be placing the chicks into their new home. Personally, I like to set the brooder heat source 2 hours before the chicks arrive. That gives enough time for the house to reach the right temperature. And it also gives me time to confirm that everything is working properly. If there's a problem with the heat source, I'd rather discover it before the chicks arrive than after they're already inside the house. Now let's talk about receiving the chicks. The first thing you should do is inspect them. You don't need to examine every single chick one by one, but take a few minutes to observe them. Healthy day-old chicks are active, they're alert, their eyes are bright, they stand well on their legs and respond quickly when you move your hand near them. Listen to them as well. Good chicks make soft, gentle chirping sounds. If they're making loud, continuous distress calls, something isn't right. It could be stress from transport, cold temperatures, or another problem that needs attention. As you're removing the chicks from the boxes, handle them gently. Place them carefully into the brooder close to both feed and water. Now, once all the chicks are inside the brooder, resist the temptation to leave immediately. Stay with them for a while. Watch what they do and isolate weak ones and put them in a separate place for extra care. Once a few of them start drinking, the others quickly copy them. Chickens learn a lot by observing each other, even at just 1 day old. The same applies to feed. Scatter a small amount of starter feed on clean chick paper or feeding trays. The movement and sound of other chicks pecking will encourage the rest to start eating. Use proper feeding trays or chick paper during those first few days, then gradually introduce the regular feeders as the chicks become familiar with their surroundings. The first few hours after arrival are about observing. The chicks will tell you a lot if you take the time to watch them. A flock that's active, drinking, eating, and spreading itself comfortably around the brooder is usually a good sign that you've prepared well. Now let's talk about heat. If there's one thing that can make or break your brooding period, it's temperature. Day-old chicks are not able to regulate their body temperature properly. Unlike older birds, they depend on you to provide a warm, comfortable environment just like their mother until they're able to keep themselves warm. If they get too cold, they'll stop eating properly, become stressed, pile on top of each other, and in severe cases, you can lose chicks through suffocation. On the other hand, if the brooder is too hot, they become uncomfortable, eat less, drink more water, and their growth suffers. So the goal is to make the brooder comfortable. There are different ways of providing heat. Some farmers use charcoal brooders, others use gas brooders, some use electric brooders or infrared heat lamps, and in areas where electricity is unreliable, some farmers even combine 2 heat sources so they have a backup if one fails. The best heat source is the one that's reliable, safe, and practical for your farm. Think about your own situation. If you're using charcoal, make sure smoke isn't entering the brooder because smoke can cause respiratory problems in young chicks. Whatever system you choose, test it before the chicks arrive. Now here's something that most people often don't realize. A thermometer is useful, but your chicks are actually the best thermometer you'll ever have. If you learn to read their behavior, they'll tell you whether they're comfortable or not. Let's say the brooder is too cold. The chicks will crowd together directly under the heat source. You'll see them piling on top of one another, trying to get as close to the warmth as possible. They'll also be chirping loudly because they're uncomfortable. When you see that, don't just think, the chicks like being together. No, they're telling you they're cold. Now imagine the opposite. If the brooder is too hot, the chicks will move as far away from the heat source as they can. Instead of being active, they'll spread out around the edges of the brooder, breathe with their beaks open, and drink more water than usual. Again, they're communicating with you. They're saying, it's too hot. The position of the chicks inside the brooder tells you almost everything you need to know. What you're looking for is a flock that's evenly spread throughout the brooder. Some chicks are eating, some are drinking, some are resting, others are walking around. They're relaxed, they're comfortable. That's exactly what you want to see. Another mistake I see is people setting the temperature correctly on the first day and then forgetting about it. As the chicks grow, their need for supplemental heat gradually decreases. That's why the brooder temperature is reduced a little each week until the birds are fully feathered and no longer depend on artificial heat. If you continue providing the same amount of heat throughout the brooding period, you'll eventually make the birds too hot. So keep adjusting as they grow. Weather also plays a role. On a cold or rainy day, you may need to provide a little more heat than you would on a warm afternoon. That's why it's important to observe your chicks throughout the day instead of checking on them only in the morning. Conditions can change quite a bit between day and night. One thing I always encourage farmers to do is visit the brooder after dark, especially during the first few nights. Many problems happen at night. The temperature drops, power can fail, charcoal can burn out, or equipment can stop working. A quick check before you go to bed and another at midnight and early in the morning can prevent losses that might otherwise go unnoticed until it's too late. Another thing that helps is protecting the chicks from drafts. Fresh air is important, and we talked about ventilation in the previous episode, but don't confuse good ventilation with cold air blowing directly onto day-old chicks. Strong drafts make it difficult for them to stay warm, even if the brooder temperature seems correct. So keep the brooder warm, well ventilated, and free from direct cold winds. Another thing you need to think about during brooding is lighting. During the first few days, it's a good idea to provide continuous light. The reason is simple. The chicks are still learning where the feeders and drinkers are. If they can see them easily, they'll spend more time eating and drinking, which helps them recover from transport and get off to a good start. The light doesn't have to be extremely bright. It just needs to be bright enough for the chicks to move around comfortably and find feed and water without difficulty. As the chicks grow older, you can gradually reduce the number of hours of light according to the type of birds you're raising and your management program. Another thing to remember is to spread the light evenly throughout the brooder. If one side of the house is very bright and another side is almost dark, you'll often find the chicks crowding in the brighter areas while avoiding the darker sections. A more even distribution of light encourages the chicks to spread out and use the entire brooding area. And if you're using electricity for lighting, always have a backup plan. Now let's talk about feed and water. If you've prepared the brooder well and the temperature is right, the next priority is getting your chicks to eat and drink as soon as possible. Remember, these chicks have just come from the hatchery. Some may have spent several hours in transit before reaching your farm. The sooner they start drinking and eating, the better they'll recover from that stress. Let's start with water. Personally, water is the first thing I want my chicks to have. Before the chicks arrive, make sure the drinkers are already filled with clean water. Now, you'll hear different opinions about adding glucose or vitamins to the drinking water during the first day. Many farmers, including myself, use glucose to give the chicks a quick source of energy after transport. Others also add vitamins to help reduce stress. If you decide to use them, follow the manufacturer's instructions. The important thing is that the chicks have access to clean water from the moment they arrive. Watch them closely. Within a short time, you should see chicks walking to the drinkers and taking small sips. That's exactly what you want. If you notice that very few chicks are drinking, don't ignore it. Check whether the drinkers are easy to reach and whether the water is clean. Now let's move to feed. For the first stage of life, chicks should be given a good quality starter feed. Starter feeds are specially formulated to provide the nutrients young chicks need for rapid growth and proper development. Don't be tempted to save money by giving them grower feed or mixing different feeds together. Those first few weeks are too important. Give the chicks the right feed from the beginning. During the first couple of days, I like using chick paper or feeding trays. Spread a thin layer of feed so it's easy for the chicks to see and peck at it. If you pour a large amount onto the litter, they'll walk through it, scratch it around, and a lot of it will be wasted. After a few days, once they've learned where the feeders are, you can gradually remove the chick paper and let them feed normally. Another thing to remember is that chicks don't eat large amounts at once. They eat small quantities many times throughout the day. That's why the feeders should never stay empty. Every time you check on the chicks, have a quick look at the feeders. If they're empty, refill them. If the feed is dirty or wet, replace it. Fresh feed encourages good feed intake. Something else I always pay attention to is the height of the feeders and drinkers. As the chicks grow, adjust them. If they're too low, the chicks will scratch litter into them. If they're too high, the smaller chicks may struggle to reach them. A small adjustment every few days makes a big difference. If you notice chicks standing with their eyes closed most of the time, refusing to eat, or gathering in one corner without moving much, don't assume they'll improve on their own. something is usually wrong. It could be temperature, it could be poor water access, it could be illness. The earlier you investigate, the easier it is to correct the problem. As they grow, both feed and water intake should gradually increase. If consumption suddenly drops, that's often one of the first signs that something isn't right. The birds may not look obviously sick yet, but they're already telling you something has changed. By the end of the first day, your chicks should be eating well, drinking well, and moving around comfortably in the brooder. The next step is making sure they stay healthy. Let's start with vaccinations. One thing I want to make clear is that vaccination schedules are not exactly the same everywhere. They can vary depending on your country, the diseases that are common in your area, and even the advice from your veterinarian or hatchery. So instead of copying a vaccination program you found on the internet, use one that's recommended for your area. That way you're protecting your birds against the diseases they're actually likely to encounter in your locality rather than vaccinating against disease that has never appeared in your country. If you buy chicks from a reputable hatchery, some vaccines may already have been given before the chicks arrive. That's another reason why it's important to know the vaccination history of your flock. Keep those records because you'll need them when planning the next vaccinations. We'll cover vaccination schedules in much more detail in the health management episode. For now, just understand that vaccinations are preventive. You don't vaccinate birds because they're already sick. You vaccinate healthy birds to help protect them before disease becomes a problem. Now let's talk about your daily routine during brooding. During these first few weeks, you should be checking on your chicks several times a day. Not because you expect something to go wrong every time, but because small problems become big problems very quickly with young chicks. Every time you enter the brooder, get into the habit of looking at the birds before you touch anything. That first minute of observation can tell you more than immediately picking up a feeder or filling drinkers. Then check your equipment. Make sure all the drinkers have clean water. Refill the feeders if necessary. Look at the litter. If you find a wet patch around a drinker, remove it and replace it with fresh dry litter. Don't wait until half the house becomes wet. Small maintenance jobs are much easier than major cleanups. As you walk through the flock, remove any dead chicks immediately. No farmer likes losing birds, but keeping a dead chick inside the brooder only increases the risk of disease and attracts flies. If you notice more deaths than usual, don't ignore them. Try to find out what's causing the problem as early as possible. Another thing I recommend is weighing a few chicks every week if you have access to a weighing scale. You don't need to weigh every bird. Just weigh a sample picked randomly from different parts of the house. It gives you an idea of whether the flock is growing as expected. If the weights are much lower than they should be, you'll know it's time to investigate before the problem becomes harder to correct. The app I have just released on the Play Store helps you detect this very quickly so that you can take action early. You can go to the Play Store and search for Poultry Intel Manager to download the app. Alternatively, I will leave the link in the description for you to download it. Once you have it, it becomes an intelligent manager that briefs you and keeps telling you the right things to do every day, along with other useful data that every poultry farmer needs. Now let's talk about cleanliness. Young chicks have immature immune systems. That's why good hygiene is so important during brooding. And if you're moving between different poultry houses, always think about biosecurity. If possible, attend to the youngest birds first before moving to older flocks. That reduces the risk of carrying disease from the older birds to the chicks. One mistake beginners sometimes make is trying to treat every small issue with antibiotics. A chick sneezes once and the medicine comes out. That's not good management. Not every problem requires antibiotics. Sometimes the issue is simply that the brooder is too cold. Sometimes the water is dirty. Sometimes the feed is dusty. Always try to identify the cause before reaching for medication. And whenever you're unsure, don't guess. Consult. Getting the correct advice early is much cheaper than treating the wrong problem for several days. As we wrap up this episode, I'd like to leave you with some of the most common brooding mistakes I see beginners make. The first one is not preparing before the chicks arrive. The second mistake is paying more attention to the thermometer than to the chicks. The third mistake is inconsistent management. Some farmers do an excellent job during the first 2 days, then they become busy with other things and stop checking on the chicks regularly. Another common mistake is trying to save money on feed. One more mistake I'd like to mention is delaying action when something doesn't look right. Now, how do you know whether your brooding has been successful? There are a few simple signs. Your chicks should be active. They should have bright eyes and clean feathers. They should be eating and drinking well. Their growth should be fairly uniform, with most birds looking about the same size. You should also have very low mortality. Of course, losing an occasional chick can happen, but if you're losing birds every day, that's a sign you need to identify and correct the underlying problem. As the chicks grow and become fully feathered, they'll gradually rely less on artificial heat. This is when you begin reducing the brooding temperature until they no longer need supplemental heating. Don't remove the heat suddenly. Do it gradually while continuing to observe the birds. If they're comfortable without additional heat, then you know they're ready for the next stage. If you get brooding right, you've already done one of the hardest jobs in poultry farming. Everything that comes after this becomes much easier because you're working with strong, healthy birds. In the next episode, we'll talk about feeding chickens from this point onward. We'll cover the different types of feed, when to change from one feed to another, how much feed your birds need, how to reduce feed wastage, and some practical ways to manage feed costs without affecting performance. So subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss. I will see you in episode 5.